Well, for more on the security challenges in the DRC, we are now joined by David Otto Endele, the Director on Security at the Horn of Africa Institute for Peace and Security Governance. He's joining us via Zoom from Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to the program, David. Of course, we are seeing a resurgence of attacks and a renewed offensive by the M23 rebels. In your opinion, what is underlying this resurgence of violence, and how does it affect security in the Great Lakes region?
Thank you. I think there are several reasons. One of the reasons why we've seen a resurgence in attacks is because there was a recent peace accord, which, of course, was held in Nairobi in the Safari Park Hotel. And that was championed by the Kenyan President, Uhuru Kenyatta, who then, invited his fellow counterpart, from Congo DRC, Felix Tshisekedi, to hold a peace talk, with these so-called rebel groups. But I think one of the challenges was that, only about 24 out of the 100 and something rebel groups attended, and especially not all the factions of M23 attended this peace accord. So some of them were seen or felt that, they had been left out of this peace accord. But that could be one of the reasons why we've seen a resurgence in attacks, being accused by, the rebel faction that is affiliated to M23 from the Rwandan side. But besides that, I think, some of the rebel groups also have accused the DRC Congo government of, failing to honor some of the agreements. They've talked about amnesty. They've also talked about the release of political prisoners, the participation in socioeconomic activities, the repatriation of some of the refugees from neighboring states back to DRC. But also, more importantly, some of the groups are claiming that they are there to fight against other rebel groups that are sponsored by foreign states. And therefore, they are saying that they are the good guys, and those other groups are the bad guys. So I think this issue of governance, which has not been able to be handled by the DRC government, has caused the resurgence of some of this violence that we've seen in the past weeks.
And David, of course, the peace accord is just one example of the kind of efforts that have taken place to bring the various rebel groups together with the state through dialogue, but they haven't yielded much success. So in your view, what do you see now as the way forward?
I think the way forward, again, is to continue this process of dialogue and negotiation. I mean, there was also a preceding conclave that was held by Kenya, DRC, Uganda, and Rwanda, but also with Burundi, which made it very clear that groups that do not engage in negotiation will then face the wrath of a joint military offensive. But I think, this has not been practicalized in the sense that, there hasn't been a very effective plan in terms of how to coordinate a negotiation and dialogue process, or even an amnesty deal, because, of course, some of these countries in the Great Lakes are not sincere. And that is why we've seen in the recent communique by the DRC government, they believe, that, the Rwandan government is supporting a faction of, M23. But of course, Yolanda Makolo, who is the spokeswoman for the Rwandan government, has denied all allegations made by Patrick Muyaya, who is the, DRC spokesman. So it's all about confidence building between DRC Congo, but also sincerity from the neighboring states in terms of how they come together to deal with these rebel factions, which are coming from various areas, within the region.
Indeed. David, quite interestingly, today is, in fact, International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers, and we know that the UN has maintained a peacekeeping mission in the DRC for a number of years with the aim of protecting civilians, humanitarian personnel, as well as human rights defenders, and they provide a role in supporting the government in stabilization efforts. But in your opinion, how effective has this mission been?
I think we shouldn't just limit ourselves to how ineffective the UN has been in providing peace and stability in the DRC. Unfortunately, that is one of the key mandates, preventing wars and ensuring that there is proactive peace and negotiation. But of course, if you look around the world, from Afghanistan to the current situation in Ukraine, up to DRC, as you've mentioned, to Nigeria, to Ethiopia, Somalia, you can tell that, the UN has simply been unable to fulfill its commitment to peace and stability. So that will be something that the UN has to look in the mirror and see where lapses have been, because effectively, the UN has been turned into a humanitarian organization where they then provide for reactive humanitarian assistance. So I think these are key areas that, I suggest, that, the UN takes this day, to have a look and see where there has been failures and how to work to bring back peace as its mandate demands. But I don't think, they will be very proud of, how far they've gone, with this mandate.
Indeed, a day of reckoning for the UN, perhaps. David Otto Endele, thank you so much for that analysis.